ASMR Coffin Radio.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Coffin Radio. I am Heartthrob Rob, and today we are talking about the season finale of Loki, episode 6, For All Time Always. Season finale here, man. Loki, arguably Marvel's, MCU Disney Plus best show. I thought last week's episode was an absolute masterpiece. I thought that was easily the best show of WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki. I thought that was definitely the best episode. But here, we pick, this episode's called For All Time Always. We pick up where last week's episodes left off. They've, made that big old freaking cloud giant go to sleep, and they're rolling up on this castle. I'm looking for the name of that thing. As they're rolling up to the castle, real quick, there's a Miss Minutes hops out, and it's like almost you think that she's the big bad. I totally thought she was the big bad. Luckily, she wasn't. But she tells you that he who remains is really like the master behind all this. And right, I'm thinking the whole time, like, it's got to be a Loki variant, maybe a Sylvie, it'll maybe one of them. And it was Kang. They had Kang come out, who is supposed to be in Quantumania. Multiverse of Madness is coming out of this, and he's really there. Jonathan Majors as Kang. I loved him in Lovecraft Country, and he's there. I freaking screamed. And he knows, he says that he's been known as a conqueror. I don't even know if they actually say the word Kang. But as this is going on, Mobius confronts Ravonna about Renslayer. Kang, he just knows everything. He tells the story how he's a scientist from the 31st century. The monster that he was controlling was Elioth. And that's because he noticed that at the same time as he was finding out about these multiverses that were all sitting on top of one another, every variant of himself from every, different universe was also finding out. And he said at first it was peaceful, but immediately it comes into conflict about whose universe is the best, He controls Elioth, and he stops this multiverse war. He just eats people, and, he's the last of him. At first, that's what I'm thinking, that he's the last of him, but he's just the one in charge, at least. His variants, he's saying, are worse. And instead of, trying to put up a fight here, he offers his spot to Loki and Sylvie about, hey, you take over the sacred timeline and it's yours from now on. I was, kind of seeing what was going on with that. There's a lot of talking involved. Loki and Sylvie fight. The only fight scene in this whole damn episode of 45 minutes is a 30-second fight scene. And as they do, they kiss. I know a lot of people were against the kiss, but I thought it fit. But I can see a lot of people that they didn't really have that kind of connection like that. But I thought they had a few moments that it was very well hinted at. But in the end, Sylvie kills Kang. And as he's dying, he says that there's more of him coming around, the bad ones. And he says, I'll see you soon. And dies. At that time, the timeline ruptures. Loki goes back to the TVA after Ravonna's got his ass, kicked Mobius's ass. And CB15 or whatever her name is showed that Ravonna is actually like a principal from a different school. But as Loki shows up at the TVA, they don't even recognize him. And as he pans to look inside of, the whole TVA, there's a Kang, statue of him. And that's kind of how it ends. We do get a mid-credit scene saying that Loki Season 2 has been renewed. So we do definitely know that Loki, Tom Hiddleston, and Sylvie are coming back. And that's the end of the episode. It sounds good, but I thought this episode was definitely a letdown compared to last week's episode. Last week's episode is definitely a masterpiece. I thought it was the best episode of all of the shows on Marvel, on the Disney Plus that they've had. But this one, a bit of a letdown. The penultimate episode is good, but this one I feel is just more of a setup episode than it is a finale. I feel like 30-second fight in a 45-minute episode is much too long. They should have had, is much too small. And if they needed much more of a fight scene, I feel like Kang shouldn't have wanted to go out so easily. Like, he should have said, okay, I'm going to leave, instead of like, oh, you have to kill me. Like, he gave them the options, kill me or lead the TVA. Or lead the TVA. And she wanted to destroy everything. So she killed him anyways. And I thought that instead of him just dying, I think maybe he should have tried to put up a fight a little bit. Not saying that he was super strong. But I mean, he does get away from him. But I guess just not wanting to die. And then, a three-way fight between him, Sylvie, and Loki. Because Loki's trying to tell her not to do this, And I feel like if they would have fought like that and a little bit more up for stakes, I think that would have been a better. That's what I did not like about this episode. There was not enough fighting. It was a long time of talking. Jonathan Majors is cool, but I did not like this version of Kang. I feel like we're definitely going to see better ones. He was kind of like Immortus in this one. And I'm just saying it was like a weird kind of quirky. I thought it was okay, but I feel like they could have had so much more. I just feel like it was a bit of a letdown, more of a setup episode. Jonathan Majors was cool, but I did not like the character, the way that he played it. I feel like it could have been played different. Like, all this build-up for not that much going on. And people are hating me in the comments. Like, I know that sets up the multiverse, but I feel like you could have gotten to the exact same points. I'm not mad at the endings. I think you can come to those exact same points with having a little bit more on stakes and for a fight and this and that. Like, people are like, oh, God, you just want to see you just want to see fight scenes? Like, yeah, in my superhero TV shows, if I could just get a little bit more than 30 seconds in a fight scene, like, yeah, that's cool to me. I'm sorry. Call me old-fashioned that way. I'm 34. I've been a comic book character follower, fucking consuming this media for 25 years. It is what it is, man. Hate me all you want, but that's just how I felt. I felt like the whole series was incredible. It was great. This episode, a bit of a letdown to me. I think last week's episode was an A+. I gave this one... definitely, to me, it was the worst episode of the whole series. Definitely. Maybe a C+. Maybe a C. Like, it didn't suck. It's just, last week's episode was so good, and this one didn't do anything really for me. Like, you could have got to the same spots with just a little bit more. That's just how I feel, man. I mean, Loki is renewed for season 2, so we'll see that after, a couple more Marvel movies. But Phase 4 continues. But let me know what you guys think about it, man. We'll talk about it in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you like what you're watching, then hop in the coffin. Follow us on social media at Coffin Radio. Coffin is spelled with a K. And that's all for today.
ASMR Coffin Radio.